Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. This is Rector Arundel with Abel Spirited Me, and I am Abel. Soham, Hansaha, Swāhā. We are on video 2, chapter 2 of the book On the Path, an energetic approach to enlightenment. This chapter is a little longer than chapter 1, so I'm going to try to take it nice and slow, but also make it clear and define certain points that might be difficult to understand. Please feel free to give me feedback. That is one reason why I am doing this. So, chapter 2, what is the point? What are we really? Why are we here? What is the point of life and existence on this planet as a human? Without following any specific religion, even modern science has concluded that everything is energy. Now, energy is a very broad term. Science has demonstrated this by already giving many names to energy, like potential energy, kinetic, atomic, electric, etc. There are also many facets of energy that modern science has refused to recognize or does not, as of yet, have the ability to observe, like consciousness, right? Now, Tesla was one of the more well-known scientists beginning to knock on the door of readily available, inexhaustible energy for all. He was trying to utilize non-traditional energy sources that are all around us. In fact, if you think about it, most technological developments over the years all boil down to us finding new ways to either harness new energy forms or use known energy types more efficiently. You could say that the goal of science is to explain phenomena, and the goal of technology is to use these explanations to harness and utilize energy more efficiently. And to make the point easier, cars are about 25% efficient. Boats are even less efficient. So we're getting more efficient over time with our technology. Now, true science, however, functions to disprove things rather than to prove things. Science simply presents theories that we cannot yet disprove with specific experimentation. In other words, none of the scientific principles we learn about in school are actual fact. They are presented as facts, but are only theories that have not been proved wrong yet. This is one of the many concepts that we as a human population are beginning to understand more widely. We can't just take things as fact anymore. We know things like history are always different depending on the point of view. A very good example of a widely accepted theory as fact is gravity. We have no idea what gravity is. Gravity cannot be disproved, but in reality, there is very likely a much larger explanation to what gravity really is, the laws that govern it, and ways to manipulate it. In all likelihood, gravity is more likely to be related to love, kundalini, and other energies that correspond to the law of attraction. These are very huge terms that we will dedicate plenty of time to in a short while. So yes, I am going to definitely define these terms completely. The law of attraction is the idea that you bring things into your life that share your same energetic polarity. It's one way to put it. So if you're happy, you'll draw more happiness into your life. If you're grateful, you'll draw more things into your life to be grateful for. Now, gravity currently is a theory that something with enough mass attracts everything else to it. But, I think it was Einstein who equated mass to be able to turn into energy, E equals mc squared. So what I'm getting at is maybe it's not the mass, but it is how much energy you have. So we're going to get to that a lot more later. Now, energy is everything. As humans, we like to have explanations of everything and put things into nice, neat little boxes. In a way, it is a method of explaining away all of our fears. We do fear the unknown, and we do not like fear. Most of us suffer from occasional anxiety, which is a small form of fear. We fear what may happen in our day-to-day lives, which is the unknown. And this actually may be one reason that we naturally have inquisitive minds. In fact, knowledge may be the ultimate goal. Truly unbiased and complete knowledge is called absolute truth. And again, only people who are enlightened have access to absolute truth. The quest for knowledge is not a curse, as some may suggest. They say that you're, what's the word I'm looking for? They call people who are too interested in learning the reason behind things, they look down on it. If you question things, you're trying to find the answers, they look down on it and they call you a weirdo, etc. But maybe understanding how things work is our whole purpose. So anyway, sorry, I got lost for a second there. So knowledge may be the ultimate goal. Truly unbiased and complete knowledge is called absolute truth, and the quest for knowledge is not a curse as some may suggest. Being curious is often looked down on, but that is conditioning. Instead, I believe it to be a gift because it drives us to explore, expand, experience, and discover. It is my belief that enlightenment is access to absolute truth, and those with absolute truth have nothing to fear, ever. One reason we seek enlightenment is our innate desire for absolute truth. We want to know the source of it all and how it ticks. If I claimed to know all of the answers, I would be implying that I were already enlightened. Now instead, I will simply say that you are aware of your own existence. This is undeniable. You are here, right? Now commonly we call this consciousness. Consciousness has become a word that has lost its meaning from overuse and misuse. However, it simply means, in the dictionary, the quality of or state of being aware of something outside of yourself or within yourself. So consciousness is something common to all living things. Ordinarily, we cannot directly experience the consciousness of something else without developing the power to do so, a siddhi or a superhuman power. A siddhi is what the yogis do. They develop these powers, levitation, transportation, etc. So one of the siddhis is being able to kind of take over someone else's mind and make them think what you want to think. So essentially, we can't ordinarily determine what has consciousness and what doesn't without having a special power. That's what I'm getting at there. However, we can easily see that animals are conscious of things around them, as are plants and even single-celled organisms like bacteria. They share many of the same physical senses as humans of seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, and touching, to become aware of things outside of themselves as well as things inside of themselves. Therefore, we can conclude that all living things have consciousness to a varying degree. So how can we decide what is living and what is not? Well, you will see once again that science fails us. Again, the definition in the dictionary of living is to have life. Now, this is called a circular definition in the scientific community, and it is not allowed. You can't make the definition of a word and the same of the... I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. You can't put the same word in the definition of that word. So basically, it is saying nothing. Another definition is exhibiting the life or motion of nature. This is also saying nothing other than movement. So, if any object is moving, and we cannot determine whether it is moving by itself or not, is it alive? Now, most people would initially say no about an inanimate, quotation, object possessing life. But this idea is actually closer to correct for me, and here's why. If all things are energy, and all things that are moving independently are alive, then everything is alive in some way according to that definition. Because what is life really, right? So in fact, an object is never completely inanimate except in the case of absolute zero. Now absolute zero is a scientific theory that when cold enough, all movement stops. You see, this word absolute is common across different backgrounds. It's supposed to mean that there is no question. But we actually have not been able to disprove this theory because we have not been able to observe anything this cold yet, which is negative 273 degrees Celsius. So it's a theory that everything stops moving when it's that cold, but we've never gotten to be that cold, so we don't know if movement ever stops actually. So in that case, everything is moving if we get down to the smallest particles, and everything is alive, and everything has some degree of awareness or consciousness, and everything is energy. Now this is hitting very close to what I have concluded from research as absolute truth, but how is it possible and is it true? So this starts to get a little biased, but bear with me. There are some very old religious beliefs that God created all other things other than himself or herself. He or she impregnated nature with his or her own consciousness. In doing so, all of the atoms were created. Now, I want you to note that this is not the type of atom to which modern science refers, with electrons, protons, neutrons. We'll get to that later. Each one of these atoms has consciousness to varying degrees, as well as the ability to live in all types of environments. These atoms have been given the name Atma, in Sanskrit, or soul. Now, I am hesitant to mention the term soul because there are religious biases that say only humans have souls. but we're trying to open our possible perceptions and perspectives. So let us just try for the moment to consider that a soul is simply a life with the ability to detect things, which is awareness, to a limited degrees. This would mean that these Atma, which are atoms with consciousness, are inside the stars, the sun, rocks, plants, animals, dust, etc. It also means that these Atma all have the quality of life in its most basic form. Now, we do not have the ability to detect others' consciousness yet, as I mentioned, but we do know that movement exists in even rocks and things of that nature, unless, of course, you get to absolute zero, which is just a theory. So the consciousness of these atoms cannot be destroyed because these Atma are very, very, very small. It is believed that they are 1/10,000th of the width of the tip of a human hair. Now, this is actually so small that none of our microscopes can see it, even the electron microscopes. So it is smaller than what we currently know as protons, electrons, and neutrons. And it should be noted that protons, electrons, and neutrons are also not proven to exist. Now, this is a fact. It's a fact that we have not proven them to exist. We just have not disproved it yet. So we've never seen any of these particles. The tiny parts of an atom are only theorized to exist by observing the way energies move and change with experimentation, chemistry, physics, etc. So in other words, we must remember that our concrete conclusions from science are just unproved theories. And we can be open to other theories like Atma or souls, bits of life and consciousness that exist everywhere. So these Atma are consciousness in the smallest and most basic form, and they have existed since the beginning. Consciousness controls and holds energy. Atma are the true energetic building blocks of everything. Each of these Atma can completely power the body in which it inhabits. So if you are in a human body, your Atma, your soul, is located in your heart, according to this source, and the energy from the Atma in your heart powers your entire body. Now, they have done recent scientific studies to show that the heart is the powerhouse of your body, and it goes into more detail, not necessarily important for this book, but could it be that the heart is the powerhouse of your body because your soul is there? Maybe. So this is the case with all beings like whales, horses, birds, ants, bacteria, and even smaller. So from the very largest to the very smallest. There are Atma also in the air. And we know this to be true because we know there is bacteria in the air as well as elements like nitrogen, oxygen, carbon dioxide, and others. So we're not in a vacuum. We are floating in an ocean, a sea of gases, which are all elements. And perhaps all of these elements have consciousness to a certain point. You never really know. But we do know that we have all this floating around us constantly. Now, all of these elements have some independent movement of nature and therefore some level of life and consciousness. And it is a very small stretch of our understanding to begin to see that we are always surrounded by consciousness and energy. We are surrounded by energy and consciousness that also penetrate us. We know that radiation and waves go through our bodies, right? We are breathing in consciousness, like I said, breathing in the elements, and we are consuming it when we eat and drink. So we all know that light is energy, but we do not know much about light in reality. Now, I know this because I studied a lot of light in physics in my education. We really don't know that much, but we do know that we have observed it to appear to behave like a wave as well as a particle. There are specific experiments to show this. Now, this is actually because it is consciousness. Let us just entertain the possibility that it can control how it wants to behave. Now, if you guys think this is far-fetched, you should look up the double slit experiment. There are videos on YouTube that explain exactly what I'm talking about. We found that the light changes its behavior depending on whether it is being watched or not, which is pretty wild. So, it is another small stretch to understand that we are absorbing consciousness from light as well. Light also has intelligence. Consciousness infers intelligence. Implies, I should say. So this is readily observable already because one aspect of light is electromagnetic waves. In other words, we can measure one aspect of light, the vibration or the wavelength, and classify it. We can utilize this to send information or intelligence through space. through radio waves and microwaves, etc., new methods are being discovered constantly, like Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. They were not in our realm of understanding, 20 years ago. Now, we already know that the electromagnetic waves are all around us all the time, but we can't detect them normally without instruments. So, when we are absorbing light, we could be absorbing intelligence. This sounds all very new age, but is it possible? So the conclusion is that consciousness truly is all-pervading. There are untapped energy sources all around us constantly. And this is what Tesla was talking about, as a matter of fact. He was trying to say that there is energy all around us and we can use it for an endless supply of energy without using fossil fuels. It wasn't a very popular opinion back then. Now, it is way beyond our complete understanding and ability to detect and utilize. However, that's just for right now, and we can strive to understand it better. One way is to think of everything around you as conscious and living. And this is the first step to absolute truth and liberation. It is more commonly and popularly known as oneness. Oneness is another term that almost gets a bad rap because no one presents it in a nice, neat little box like we enjoy. So oneness is a very common term in Buddhism, as well as the New Age Stay in the Present Moment books. And this is what it really means. Plants, rocks, water, air, and animals are all conscious and aware to varying degrees and holding energy and intelligence, and they are all important and valuable just like us. So again, what we're trying to get at is the smallest known possible life might be these little tiny atma, and they are making up every single thing. They make up the fabric of existence. So if we're all made of the same thing, we are all one. That's just one arrow pointing at oneness, okay? Now, this is because everything is made up of consciousness atoms, or Atma, and all Atma are also immortal. These Atma change what physical body they inhabit over time, but the Atma is not destroyed as it goes from one body to the next. Only the experience and degree of awareness changes. We're going to talk about that right now, because that can be a little confusing too. So depending on the vibrations of the Atma, how it is moving, it will attract or repel other Atma. And this is where the law of attraction comes into play. Vibration is a very two-dimensional concept. It suggests that you have one frequency and that's it. So you hear a note, let's say 432 hertz, and you only think there's only one vibration going on. And a magnet is another great example. It either attracts or repels another magnet or metal, and that is all, so we think. And we have already touched on this concept with electromagnetic waves. We're sending these wavelengths through space, right? So we classify wavelengths and magnets and frequencies by the one vibration they exhibit most. However, were you aware that nearly every musical instrument plays more than one frequency at the same time when you play a note? So these are called harmonics. When you play a string on an instrument, you hear one note, but there are actually several different frequencies being played at the exact same time, and this is partially responsible for why different instruments sound unique. Instruments like harmonica play many, many different frequencies all at one time when you think you're just playing one note. The two-dimensional idea of vibration suggests that something only attracts or repels one thing that is attracted or not attracted to it due to this particular type of charge. So again, you could think of attraction and repelling as attachment and aversion. Just going to throw that little spin in there. But yes, most of our understanding of frequency is flawed because we almost never have a single frequency in our experience ever. The only single frequencies that we are able to experience are the ones that we produce in a technological way, like a synthesized note C. It's very pure, but actually as a human, we don't enjoy it that much. We have to muddy it up a bit, I would say. Okay, moving on. In reality, it is a lot more complex. Big surprise. And thank goodness, actually. And I find this concept most easy to understand by comparing it to the behavior of enzymes. Biochemistry suggests that the shape of molecules like enzymes determines what the enzyme does in the body and how it reacts and controls things in the body. And there are even more complex cascade events that cause huge chain reactions from one small enzyme doing one specific thing. The release of adrenaline in your body is one example. One molecule of adrenaline causes countless other reactions in your body. Now, some enzymes are shaped differently on different sides of their structure. Each side has its own function. So this is very common with molecules in the body, such as hemoglobin. And I don't want to bore you with a complete description, but this happens a lot in the body. Biology is a very complex subject because there are so many things happening all at once. And hemoglobin, it can hold oxygen as well as carbon and other things depending on what is needed at the time in different tissues of the body. So this one molecule has multiple functions that it can do different uses depending on what is needed. Now, different enzymes provide a plethora of functions in the body by having attraction to different molecules. And now, Atma are like super advanced enzymes. These Atma, or consciousness atoms, have multiple vibrations going on simultaneously and can attract other Atma to them with similar vibrations. They can also change their vibration at any time at will, because that really is implying consciousness, the ability to change your mind. Now, this is the ultimate key to attaining the experience that you want. Your vibrations attract more of the same into your life. Only a basic understanding of this possibility is all I hope for at the moment, so don't worry if you're a little bit confused. I want you to understand that you attract infinite things into your existence of similar consciousness, or things that share your particular perspective. You'll bring more of it into your life. So the point of all this is to realize that we are bits of consciousness, the same substance that makes up everything, and that we can attract things into our lives and change things. We can recruit assistants or other Atma to help us achieve our goals. And you could even take this idea out to the possibility that you attracted all the Atma that make up your own cells to work with you to create a physical body. Now, that sounds crazy, maybe, but having a physical body allows you to experience your surroundings as well as change them. Now, if this is getting too far-fetched for you, I'd like you to think about the current scientific theory that you have more bacterial cells in your body than your own cells. Now, think about that for a minute. We have bacteria and other living organisms in our guts, on our skin, in our mucous membranes, in our blood, on our nerves, and basically everywhere. They are living harmoniously inside us, just as we are meant to live harmoniously with all of the other beings, animals, and plants on Earth. These organisms inside our bodies help us survive here on Earth. So you were born as a certain cluster of cells in a small baby, but before that you started out as a single cell, and you started having more cells, and then over time you became this large body with all these cells that aren't even yours. They're bacteria and other living organisms living in harmony with you. So it's an interesting thought that you attracted these things to you. Now, we must use this knowledge of the ability to recruit assistance by our will, with the correct intentions and control at all times in every moment for the greatest good of the entire universe. Now, why? Well, because when serving the entire universe in every moment of your existence, you are actually living your life for the correct purpose. Now, you are also doing it efficiently and not wasting energy. This is the only way to attain constant and ongoing eternal happiness. In other words, you are actually happiest when accomplishing your goals that are for more than just yourself. They are for everyone's benefit. They are for the entire universe. How do we know when we are serving the universe? We have to know when our thoughts and actions are not coming from the ego. So that's a pretty big paragraph to swallow. But what I'm implying here is that you can't be happy unless you are accomplishing goals, overcoming hardships, and you have to also include the well-being of others in that accomplishment. If you're only doing things for yourself, it will not equal happiness. You have to be overcoming things. That's part of our nature, and we also have to be doing it for others. Now, we are going to talk about how to know when the thoughts and actions are not coming from the ego. Thank you for joining me. Please leave feedback. Appreciate it. Have a good day. You know I will. Bye.